Welcome to our Commitment 2026 coverage, primary election night here in California. I'm Edie Lambert. We're covering a number of races, including all of the statewide offices from the governor on down.
And we're also covering all the congressional races. Some voters finding themselves in new districts, some incumbents finding themselves in new districts. We'll sort it all out.
And I'm Curtis May. We have crews all over the place from San Francisco to Los Angeles bringing you live results and reaction. We also have reporters all across the valley and on into the foothills.
And the coverage didn't start tonight. We've been covering the governor's race and these races up and down our state for the last several months, if not years, when it comes to, again, that crowded California governor's race. We also have two experts and panelists who will help us with analysis tonight.
So the polls have just closed. In fact, we can introduce them right now. We have Tim Rosales and Steve Maviglio, a Democrat and Republican, to help us with our analysis through the night. So yeah, polls have just closed.
Yeah, so let's go to one of those polling places. We're going to go talk to Denton Cortez, standing by right now at the Sacramento County Registrar's office, and we see some people there behind you. Looks like they're still trying to get everything done there.
Yeah, polls just closed minutes ago, guys, and I want to show you the excitement here for a lot of workers because the work now just starts to begin. Check it out. Polls are now officially closed here as of minutes ago. Now they're going to be preparing for all those ballots across the county, the more than 90-plus vote centers, 60-plus ballot drop boxes. Now election workers are going to be working all through the night to count those up. I have Ken Kasparis here with Sacramento County. So, Ken, first, tell me off, how late have you been staying up or have been up for today?
Yeah, so I got here at about 4:30 this morning, so I'm pretty tired, and I'll be here for a few more hours talking to you guys.
So what happens now throughout the process? Polls just closed. Walk us through what voters could expect at home.
Yeah, so polls just closed. We do still have people in here in the vote center who are casting their ballots, and that'll probably be true for most of our vote centers throughout the county. But once those people are done, those ballots will make their way back to elections headquarters, where we are right now, where we will work through processing them and get them counted.
I understand, too, since you guys have so much, vote centers throughout the county, when will those first election results start to come out, and what will entail into those results as well?
Yeah, so our first batch of results should come out in just a few minutes, about 8:15, and that'll be all of our early voting, pretty much everything that we've received and processed through yesterday. And then we have another batch of results coming out at 10:15, and that'll start to include some of the same-day in-person voting.
How has turnout been this election, compared to other primaries?
It's pretty comparable to what we've seen in other similar primaries. We're currently sitting at a little more than 28%, but as those vote by mail ballots come in, that's definitely going to climb closer to 40.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ken. We'll be following as more ballots start to come here to headquarters. But for now, live in Sacramento County, Denton Cortez, KCRA 3 News.
Denton, thanks. We look forward to getting some of those early numbers. We'd like to go now to Anahita Jafari. She's in San Joaquin County at their Registrar of Voters. Anahita, what are you seeing there?
Well, we're not seeing much because the polls just closed, but there have been a few stragglers. Looks like one actually might be pulling up right now. People can just pull right up to this area where the volunteers are, hand them their ballot, and then they can put them right in that drop box. Or you could also go inside to vote, but now that is officially closed. So unless you're in line at this point, you will not be able to any longer. We are joined now here by one of the volunteers. Her name is Laura, and she's actually been out here since 6 in the morning. Laura, tell us a little bit about how it went today.
Well, there have been lots of ballots dropped off all throughout today, so I'd say voter turnout was great. One lady even gave my friends and I these smiley face stickers and butterfly stickers, so we were very excited. And I would say throughout the day, I've been hearing constantly that people are very appreciative of this drop-off system because it's so much easier and quicker for them to drop off their ballot. So overall, a great day.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I actually see a couple of those stickers on your sweater, so that's awesome. Great to hear again. There was a free ride happening to all the polling places from San Joaquin RTD, but that is now over as the polls have closed. Live in San Joaquin County, I'm Anahita Jafari, KCRA 3 News.
All right, Anahita, thank you.
All right, we've got Ashley Zavala here to help us break down things. And what's better than having Ashley here is having two experts from both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, these are two regulars on California Politics 360 with experience in both political parties. Sitting next to me will be Democratic strategist Stephen Maviglio all night. And then next to him, Republican strategist Tim Rosales. We are so grateful for your insight tonight.
Thank you.
So just going into tonight, what are your initial thoughts? Steve, let's start with you.
Turnout, is it going to exceed 40%? It doesn't look like it will, but Democrats held their ballots and came in very strong in the last couple days.
Tim, thoughts for Republicans?
Same as Steve. You know, what's the over-under in terms of turnout? And for such an deciding important issues, who is going to face each other for the race for governor in California and decide the future of the next 4 to 8 years for the people of California, plus congressional seats, who are going to face off against each other in November in some very key congressional seats. This is a big election, and the turnout or lack thereof is going to be something really I think we're going to look back and talk about a lot.
Right. Who exactly is motivated to go to the polls will be something to unpack here. All right, Tim and Steve, we're going to have so much to talk about tonight, but first, let's send it back to Edie and Golston with a look at what else is going on across the state.
Well, of course, Ashley, the governor's race has just been, one of the bigger races we've been following here in California. Andrea Flores has been covering the Javier Becerra campaign down in Los Angeles. He surged up to the front to become one of the front-running candidates. Andrea, how's it going there tonight?
Hey guys, we are here at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. This is just outside of downtown Los Angeles, and this is a cultural hub for Latinos, Chicanos, Mexican Americans here in the city of LA, and a very fitting atmosphere for Javier Becerra's campaign tonight. We know that he is the son of Mexican immigrants, born in California, in Sacramento to be exact, and the first Latino to serve as Health and Human Services Secretary. So couldn't think of a better fit for tonight's event, but the event is really starting to fill out. The doors opened officially to all of the supporters and the public here within the last few minutes. Of course, we know he is leading the field as those votes continue to be counted. And just a second ago, I actually saw civil rights icon Dolores Huerta walking by. So she is here supporting his campaign tonight. And some of the issues that he's been focusing on, we'll get into more detail, but for now, we'll send it back to you.
All right, we've got to just jump in really quickly because we have a candidate stepping in right now.
That's right. Sheriff Chad Bianco is stepping up to the mic right now in Riverside County. So let's go live there to see what he is about to say.
Okay, switch batteries. You are either behind us financially, spiritually, personally, helping, whatever it was, to and you have absolutely, I cannot express enough from the bottom of my heart how appreciative I am for all of you. Thank you. From the very beginning, I made this decision for this one. For all of your kids, for all of your grandkids that do not have the opportunity that we had when we were this age in California. And it's not because of any of you, it's not because of any of your businesses, it's because of an absolute failed political agenda in California. And there's only one way to fix that, and that is to absolutely disrupt and destroy this agenda in Sacramento that is ruining our lives. I made the decision to sacrifice my family, my grandkids, my department, there's nothing I love more than my sheriff's office. And it was a sacrifice to make sure that I did everything I could to travel this state for the last 16 months to make sure that I make a better life for all of you in California. And I think we did everything we could to make that happen. You were all a part of this, one way or the other, in my personal life. You were all a part of this, so I appreciate this going. The polls are closed. We're now waiting for that stupid screen to update to show us what's going to happen. And the anxiety in the next 20 minutes, it should be a mad dash to the bar to make sure you're holding a drink, to make sure we can deal with it one way or the other. Did it update already?
All right, so we're listening to the Republican candidate for governor there, Chad Bianco, in Riverside County at one of the hotels there, giving a lot of thanks to his supporters there.
And like us, waiting for those first numbers to come up on the screens.
Yeah, we know the Riverside County Sheriff, which is his current job right now, he's actually expected to be in that room with his supporters all night watching those election results come in. That's according to Jason Marks, who is in the room with him right now.
So kind of setting the stage right now, thanking his supporters, and yeah, he'll be with them all night. Let's go now to Lizzie Mitri. She is covering the other leading Republican in the race for governor, and that is Steve Hilton. She's in Huntington Beach. What are you seeing at that party?
That's right. Well, you can probably hear the music. People are just now starting to enter here at the Waterfront Beach Resort Hotel in Huntington Beach. And the theme of the night is clear. Hopefully you can see it behind me. Change is coming. That is plastered all over the room here. And of course, Steve Hilton is hoping he can be the one to bring that change to California. Now, that may be tough, right? In a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans nearly 2-1, which is why over the last few days he has been trying to rally the vote, calling on Republicans to unite behind him, actually saying that any vote for Sheriff Chad Bianco is a vote for 2 Democrats to become the top 2 leaders tonight, something he's obviously trying to avoid. We heard from Hilton about an hour ago, just before the polls closed. Take a listen.
So the polls show me leading or second, but I'm fighting as if we're third. I've been saying that all weekend to all our supporters. We cannot let this chance for change slip away.
Again, hitting on his theme that change is necessary, and he said change that is not divisive, which is interesting. In April, he received the endorsement from President Donald Trump, a figure who some in California may consider to be divisive, but he said he is inviting all to join him in his campaign, in his efforts to bring change to California. And overall, he said he's feeling excited tonight. So we'll see what voters think. Reporting live here in Huntington Beach, Lizzie Mitri, KCRA 3 News.
All right, Lizzie, thank you. We're going to get to some early results right now in some of the statewide office races. And you can see here right now, Steve Hilton in the lead at this early point in time with 28% there, followed by Javier Becerra, then Tom Steyer, and then Chad Bianco.
Interesting when you see these top 3 in the early numbers. It kind of it goes exactly with what we've been seeing in the polling.
Exactly. So far, with fewer than 5% of precincts reporting at this point.
And the other 3 then rounding out the rest of the top runners there.
Okay, in the race for lieutenant governor, we are seeing the Republican at the top right now. Again, very early stages of the vote counting, but that to some degree might be expected because you've got she's a well-known Republican, someone who changed her party, and then you've got 2 very prominent Democrats who've kind of split the vote.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised we're not seeing Michael Tubbs up on this screen or within this pack, because he was the former mayor of Stockton, did pretty well when it came to fundraising, but at this point it looks like, again, with a few precincts reporting, the Democratic former state Senate Majority Leader Gloria Romero, followed by current state treasurer Fiona Ma. Josh Friday is right now in Governor Gavin Newsom's administration, basically leading the state's version of the Peace Corps, and they were the 3 among the top 5 candidates.
All right, let's get on to the other candidates right now, the other offices here. And looking at Secretary of State, you can see the incumbent Shirley Weber in the early lead right now, followed by Donald Wagner. And again, just getting back to you, Ashley, his complaints have been really about getting the votes turned around in a quicker fashion.
Exactly. I mean, he's running on a lot of the issues that Republicans and no party preference voters and even some Democrats have been raising is the pace of the count in California. Why does it take so long to get these results? But but Secretary of State Shirley Weber, a longtime California politician, she was in the state assembly before being elected Secretary of State. I mean, we could at least maybe, you know, deduce that this is who we will see on the ballot in November, likely.
And you talk about the length of time it takes to get the count, something we will be experiencing starting tonight and for the next several weeks. Let's check in now with the race for Attorney General. You have the incumbent Rob Bonta and challenger, the Republican Michael Gates, a deputy U.S. attorney. And again, it is just very early numbers right now. The numbers look pretty close at this point.
All right. Well, one thing voters have been having to deal with, and some of the incumbents, are the change in congressional districts, Curtis, and I know you've been looking at that.
Yeah, Prop 50, I mean, really put to the test for the first time. We know that these maps were redrawn. The Democrats wanted 5 districts to favor to send 5 more Democrats to the United States House. And so we want to show you the 2 districts in our area specifically that were redrawn to flip. We're going to start with District 1, but this one's a unique story. We're going to talk about how the fact there are 2 ballots that went out for District 1. One is for the current District 1. This favored the majority of the state and the northern part of the state. And we're still waiting for the first reporting to come in here. But James Gallagher is trying to replace his mentor, Doug LaMalfa, who passed away before the end of his term. And so the first ballot that went out is to determine who is going to fill Doug LaMalfa's seat until the end of his term later on this year. But then House 1 was redrawn, and the redrawing of House 1 now factors in more of the Bay Area, and these are bluer areas of the state. So instead of going all the way up to the state line of Oregon and all the way up here, it now goes down on into the Bay Area. And we're going to put up the candidates here just to see if we have any results just yet. 19% the expected vote in, and right now Mike McGuire, Democrat, has the number of votes to put him in the front at this point, and James Gallagher comes in second. So it's very possible we're going to have 2 different people who, one to carry out the rest of the term in the current District 1, and then we'll have somebody else for the next District 1. Now, I should point out for the current District 1, we just need a simple majority for that person to carry out the term. Otherwise, there would be a runoff in August. All right, let's go to District 3 right now. This one is an interesting one. This is a previously Republican district held by incumbent Kevin Kiley. It was redrawn to pull in more Democratic areas east of Sacramento, including Folsom, Rancho Cordova, and Carmichael, and it dropped some suburbs like Roseville and Rockland. Now, Kevin Kiley left this district. He also left his party, and he's running in a different district. But let's put the results up right now for District 3. And these, we have Ami Berra, who left his district to move on over to this one. We got a full screen up right now, and you can see with 37% of the expected votes in right now, it looks like Chris Bennett may have 5% of the vote. We have Laura Koski with 2%, Linda Cervantes 1%. I think there's another page here that should have come up before that showed who the front runners are. Ami Berra, though, and Christine Bish. Here we go. These are Rob Tucker. These are some of the names. Heidi Hall. So right now, Ami Berra, who's the incumbent in District 6, is leading in the top 2 vote getters here. We'll go to the runoff once we get to November. All right, let's talk about District 6 here. This is a Sacramento-based district incorporating suburbs along I-80 now, conservative-leaning Roseville, Rockland, Citrus Heights, and incumbent Ami Berra left this district to draw or go into the newly drawn District 3, but Congressman Kevin Kiley, who is now an independent, has moved into this district. And you can see right now with 39% of the expected votes in, Kevin Kiley, who is now an independent, is in the lead, followed by pediatrician Dr. Richard Pan. And Richard Pan is a former state senator. Also in this race, we have Sacramento County DA Tin Ho, and then we do have a Republican there. You can see Michael Stansfield. So we're keeping an eye on these races right now. The numbers are just now starting to come in. You can see how the following 3 are there for District 6. So we are following all of these for you. We will update you as these numbers come in. We got a lot of districts, a lot of numbers. We're going to try to keep it simple for you to understand as these results come in.
Thank you. I wanted to check in with you, Ashley, because I think it's interesting the number of Republican votes for the Republican candidate candidate versus for Kevin Kiley, who's now an independent but caucuses with Republicans and has a long history as a Republican.
Yeah, this is interesting. First off, District 6 was a newly created seat essentially for the Sacramento area through Proposition 50, and it is packed with Democrats. I mean, who were thinking that this would be a Democratic, easy seat. And again, we're waiting, and the results could take some time before we know. But yeah, it's interesting. Kevin Kiley has a lot of name recognition. He has a lot of followers on social media, and we're learning that that really does play a huge role in these results.
Okay, we also want to cover some of the Bay Area races. We have Jana Katsuyama right now live for us in Fremont. She's at a voting center in the 14th Congressional District. Hi, Jana.
Hi there. And they just literally came with the sheriff's deputies to collect the vote over at the ballot drop box, as well as the voting center that's here at the Fremont Main Library. This is a very interesting district because, as you may remember, Congressman Eric Swalwell dropped out at the last minute amid some concerns and accusations of sexual misconduct, which he continues to deny, but he did drop out of the race, and that led to a very truncated, compressed time for these candidates to campaign. There are 9 candidates in this race, 6 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and 1 no party preference. And of course, the top 2 will advance to the November election. So the candidates really had a short time to reach out to the different voters in this East Bay Congressional District. And it has more than 420,000 registered voters. About 50% of them are Democrats, and there are about 17% who are Republicans, and then 26% who are no party preference. One of the main people who swept up a lot of major endorsements was State Senator Aisha Wahab. She ended up getting the California State Democratic Party endorsement, as well as big unions such as the SEIU. And right now, it appears that she is leading in the initial votes that just came in minutes ago. This is, again, a first tally, so none of the precincts have been included, but right now she has about 20,000 votes, 36%, followed by Melissa Hernandez, who is a former mayor of Dublin here and got much support from local mayors, who's trailing by 16%, and then 2 Republicans, Wendy Huang and Dina Maldonado, are 3rd and 4th right now in this initial count, followed by Rocky Israni Singh. Now, Rocky Singh is a very interesting person in this because she has never been elected, but she had quite a bit of money that she poured into this race. So it is going to be an interesting night tonight for the Congressional District 14, and then the voters will, on June 16th, vote again to see who is going to fill the seat through the end of the term in January.
All right, Jana Katsuyama reporting for us from Fremont. Thank you so much. As we come back here live in our studio, just kind of thinking a little bit more about the rejiggering process from Prop 50 and how that has left some voters in districts. Now they're having to vote for new candidates, and the makeup of their district has changed.
Yeah.
And that's got to be frustrating for some.
Yeah, I mean, some areas like in the Central Valley, especially, that were split into multiple parts, and it's been a lot for voters to process. I mean, not just the fact that they chose that in the last election last year, but also, what that means for them. I think there are people in our area, for example, that are confused why they aren't voting for an Ami Bera. For instance.
Because that's who in the last election.
Yes.
And I think Doris Matsui would be another longtime politician that District 7 switched. You look at the city of Lodi, which is now split into 3 different districts.
Yeah, and so the balance of power in Congress is something that we and many will unpack with these results tonight, and then moving forward to November. But we want to bring in our analyst, Steve Maviglio, with the Democratic strategist, and Tim Rosales, a Republican strategist, to sort of, what are you keeping an eye on tonight when it comes to these congressional districts and Prop 50?
Well, first for me, this might be a little bit of a red mirage because these early voters were heavily Republican, more so than Democrats. The Democrats held back to this budget their votes because they were unsure about the governor's race and trying to be strategic. So let's treat these numbers we're seeing with a little bit of caution first. But there are some hotly contested races. Even Doris Matsui, who's been here in Sacramento forever, is really going to be in a fight for her life tonight. And I think some other seats in the Central Valley where there's Democrat on Democrat warfare also are very interesting to watch.
Tim, did Prop 50, do you think, activate no party preference and Republican voters who weren't on board with Democrats essentially redrawing our state's maps?
It's hard to say what activated Republican voters. I think that you had a the willingness not to be shut out of a general election in California. I think that being scared, essentially, not to have a Republican candidate at the top of the ticket for governor, I think that motivated a lot of Republicans. But, you know, we look at seats like the Kevin Kiley congressional seat, where Kiley's running now as an independent, and you have that Republican who's getting a ton of votes. The biggest predictor of how somebody's going to vote is their party registration, and so it's an interesting strategy that Kevin Kiley employed, and we'll see if it works. But retrospect, we're going to need some time to digest what these numbers mean and what the turnout actually was before we can assess what really motivated Republicans and independents, if independents did come out in numbers.
All right, Tim and Steve, we'll be right back with you guys because we obviously have a lot to talk about. Let's send it back to Edie and Golston with a look at what else is going on.
Ashley, thank you. So, yeah, again, we're getting just the early results now, and it can also be skewed. We should warn you, as the numbers come in, where they're coming in from. Some counties, like Los Angeles, for instance, can be notoriously slow and is a Democratic stronghold. And so when those numbers come in, you can see big shifts in the percentages.
And even when you think things are starting to shake out, you have to remember that there are so many more votes to count that come in, later. So it's still kind of cloudy, even at the end of the night, as to what some of the races may look like.
And Secretary of State Shirley Weber, flat out told us that she doesn't expect, especially when it comes to the governor's race, to really have that result or any daylight on that tonight. So,
you think about what they do when they get the vote by mail ballots. They are checking the signatures.
Yep.
They're making sure that those voters didn't vote elsewhere, so it's not a second. There's so many steps that they go through to make sure that it is a secure election, and it just takes time.
Yeah. And we have so many people to get to later in our coverage later tonight. We've got people spread out from the Bay Area to Los Angeles to Riverside, bringing you the latest. As those numbers start to come in, we'll turn those around for you in our continuing primary election night coverage here in California. We'll be right back.